I never lose, either I win or I learn. Those are my only options, to whomever it may concern. About to be a hot topic, play with fire, you get burned. Ain't nobody give me nothing, whatever I got, better I earn. I never lose, but I learn. I either win or I
Thank you for
learn.
listening to the
Those are my
Strong
only
AF
options.
podcast.
This episode is brought to you by our Weight Loss Transformation Masterclass. After spending over 30 years of my life being obese and dealing with chronic constipation issues, I decided to get my certification in fitness, nutrition, and wellness to empower myself to lose over 70 pounds and keep it off.
Watching my brother and dad have a heart attack within weeks of each other, I knew I had to make a change, but I wasn't sure what to do. After researching and studying to get my certification in fitness, nutrition, and weight loss management, I was able to use this knowledge I gained to lose over 80 pounds and keep it off.
Now we're passionate about helping others to avoid the same mistakes that we made and changing the world through holistic health and wellness. So our approach is focused on mindset because overall health, including our mental health, means everything to us.
Imagine waking up with more energy than you imagined possible, no longer worrying about digestive issues and bloating.
We're here to show you how to ditch the fad diets and make small changes in your lifestyle, which will make a massive impact on your quality of life.
These are changes that you will be able to pass on for generations to come. Go to veganstrongandfit.com/masterclass today to sign up for your free masterclass and get started on a happier, healthier journey.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Strong AF podcast. I'm Ashley,
I'm Yuri.
and tonight we have a very special guest on, Elliott Vang, and he is a certified high performance coach and self-mastery expert. He helps guide people to self-discover new habits and beliefs so that they can live a life they create. And he's also trained on a variety of topics such as positive development, self-advocacy, and success habits. He seeks out opportunities to empower people to recognize their uniqueness and awesomeness. He also utilizes his positive energy and wonderful sense of humor to create a relaxed and nurturing environment, and has over 10 years of experience as a coach and has led private one-on-one sessions as well as facilitated group discussions. Elliott, that is one heck of a resume right there.
Definitely.
I was like, wow, that sounds awesome. Like whoever that is.
It's so great to have you on. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you to Ashley. Thank you to Yuri for allowing me to come onto your platform and share my story and share my message and my perspective, right? So I just want to say congrats. I mean, appreciate that you are allowing me to come on to your platform and share. So I appreciate that.
We're so glad to have you here.
Yeah.
Thrilled. Can't wait.
Well, first, I just want to say, hi, everyone. I'm Elliott Vang. First, I am a husband to my wife and a father to my 2 kids, right? In the past, I didn't start with that. I was like, oh, this is who I am. This is what I do. It's like, no, I've come more grounded and more present about who I am, right? I'm a husband first to my wife and a father first to my kids, right? That's what's important to me. That's what I value. That's what I put high on my priority list. So I want to start there.
I love that so
Awesome.
much.
You said you have 2 kids?
Yes, I do. A 10-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Oh,
Yes.
fun ages.
And I know I heard you 2 have 3, right? Yours a little bit younger than mine, but yeah, exciting. I just love their energy, love their enthusiasm. And they're at the age where they still want to be around me, right? They're not at the point of like teenage years. It's like, hey, Dad, can I get some money? And then out the door or doing whatever.
Right.
I still have to cherish these moments.
That's
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Life is definitely short.
Yes.
Correct.
And they grow quick.
They do.
Oh, I know. And my son's 12. He's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till I'm 16 or 18. I was like, enjoy it now.
Yeah, like you don't even want to hear that.
Yeah, right. It's like once you get there, you're gonna want to come back. You're like, oh, I wish
Mhm.
I was 12 again, or I wish I was
Yeah.
10 again. So
Especially once those bills hit.
You
yeah,
stole it. That's what I was just thinking. Once he gets that first bill, it's like, oh my goodness,
yeah.
Dad, can I
I,
come back? Can I
yeah, I
come
don't
back?
have money to cover for this, Dad. Like,
Right.
what did I do? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, you sign up for it. This is what you wanted.
Exactly. It's so funny to hear our 9-year-old when he's talking about how much he thinks things cost. And he's like, oh my gosh, I bet that house is like $1,000. And I'm like, I wish.
Yeah, right. In Monopoly money or in what? Like,
Right.
Bitcoin, whatever.
yeah.
Bitcoin's worth more than that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just saw that too. I was like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So I love that you are definitely a family first type of guy. Um, one thing that as we were, checking you out, you're a certified high performance coach. And when I first saw that, I was like, what the heck is that? But as I was reading it, I was like, wow, this is really cool. So can you please explain to our listeners exactly what you do and what all that entails?
Well, I give myself a big fancy title, right? So, no, and I still get that, and I love that because then people are inquiring and curious about it. And what is this high performance? So for me, I come from athletic coaching background, and that's what I attributed high performance to was athletes. Athletes are high performers. They perform at that high level. And I'm like, now it's no, stay-at-home parents can, CEOs, small business owners. And what high performance is getting exceeding expectations above standard norms, right, for the long term, right? So getting those heightened levels of performance and being able to maintain it and sustain it for the long term. Because we've all seen and heard of people working 70, 80-hour work weeks and crushing it and making a lot of money. But is that something that's maintainable?
Oh,
Right.
Right? What else is going to suffer? Their health and wellness is going to suffer. Their relationships going to suffer. They're not going to have those healthy type of relationships. So
Yeah.
that's what high performance is about. Is like how can we get to that level of high performance and then maintain it over the long term?
Oh my gosh, I love that. So I come from a corporate world too. So I know exactly from that perspective, like what you're talking about there, because especially nowadays, it's like all the overtime and putting in these extra hours, like all of that is um admired, right? We put so much emphasis on, oh, look how much extra time they're spending.
Yes.
Look, they're staying up late and working. But that's not what we should be rewarding, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time, all those extra hours that you're putting in, you're not really being productive and efficient with your time. It's more like check boxes, right? So we're spending more time doing work that's not putting forth, the reward or the output that we're looking for. So I love that you're in this field.
Yeah, and I look at it on the other end of the spectrum. Like you said, spending 70, 80-hour work weeks, or I'm putting in all this overtime and like, oh my goodness, I'd rather be at home. I really don't want to be at
Yeah.
work. I'd rather be home with my wife and kids and doing stuff. And with having younger kids, it's like you may miss some of the things of them growing up and not being able to utilize your time doing things you really care about.
Correct, right? I mean, yes, we could come in and put in our time at work, but when it's time to go home and do that extra part at home, like you said, or you two have young kids. My kids are still young. To be able to enjoy those moments and not miss out on those moments. Dad, how come you weren't at my 10th birthday? Oh, sorry, I had a lot of things at work to do. I did all of this at work. I had to work 80 hours that week. We can't get that back.
Yeah.
Right. And actually, a little bit what you said is like we rewarded people who were first one in, last one out kind of thing. Oh, that person showed up at 7 a.m. this morning and they're staying till 7 p.m. It's like, is that really being productive?
Right. Exactly.
Are they using their time the best that they can? Is that most effective? Right. And we miss out on those pieces.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, it makes me think, right, because with the pandemic and everything going on right now, and the way that work life has changed, I know that there's a lot of terrible things that have happened with this pandemic, but I will never be more happy than I am with the way that it has changed my work life. Because being able to work from home and to be able to actually spend time with my kids and to see them instead of spending that on the commute and
Yes.
being gone from 5 in the morning until 6 in the evening and not
Mhm.
getting to see my kids, that's the best thing that has happened.
Yes, right. I mean, yes, a lot of people have had suffering through this pandemic, right? But that's one thing that's one of the things that has come out of it, right?
Mhm.
We don't have to commute into work. We don't have to worry about that time, whatever that time is, and also we get to be home and still be productive, right? And show our bosses, hey, I can still get
Right.
what I would get done at the office here at home, and they're like, oh, okay. So before upper management didn't want to see that. Senior leadership team
Oh,
didn't want
yeah,
to see that, right?
definitely.
But
That
now
was
they're seeing
frowned
it's like,
upon.
yeah, now it's happening.
Yeah.
They can't argue against it. It's like
Mhm.
I've been at home for it's been a year, almost a year, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm still productive. I
Mhm.
mean, we'll get things done. Same that I would if I was in office. Maybe even more
Yeah.
than what I would if I was in office. But on the flip side, yes, we do miss having those personal connections and stuff.
Mhm.
It's definitely slowed things down. It's allowed people time to spend more time with their
Mhm,
families or focus on themselves and invest in themselves,
mhm.
whether it's a business, their health, or learning new careers and stuff like that. So it's
Mhm.
definitely been beneficial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big point you brought up there, Yuri, is about we as humans or individuals, the people who want to get better, right? So whatever that is, who want to grow, we can't say that we don't have the time to do that because we've had all ample time to do that last year, right?
Exactly.
We had so much time, like take out commuting, like we talked about commuting. You take out that commuting time,
Mhm.
that's another hour to 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours. What are you doing with that extra time? Are you
Exactly.
spending it sitting in front of the TV? Are you scrolling through social media? Like,
Mhm.
where's that extra time going? So we can't say, oh, I don't have enough time to do that or enough time to do this, right? It
Right.
just where's our priorities going? What do we
Exactly.
put on top of that priority list?
So, how did you get started in the whole coaching and self mastery expert? What made you decide to chase that career or that path?
Oh, it wasn't always like this for me. My journey has been a wild one. I was at a point where I was sleepwalking my way through life basically. Wake up, let things happen however
Mhm.
they happen. Didn't have a plan. Went to work, came home, um, let things happen by chance, and I was like, I wasn't happy. I wasn't enjoying my life. I was like, this is not what I signed up for. I was in my 30s already. Like by your 30s, you're supposed to know what you're doing. You're supposed to be
Mhm.
set. I'm like, I'm not. Like, what's going on? Like, and I knew there's more, and I knew that there was something else for me. And I was broken. My marriage wasn't at the best at that time, right? And I was like, I was at a live event. This is before the pandemic, right? So
Mhm.
Mhm.
I'm glad I went to a live event, and then was at a live event, and those that have been at a live event, you're invigorated,
Mhm.
you're into that environment. It's like on fire, right? Just being around that group of people. We got thousands of people there jumping and smiling and crying together, and it was amazing the first 2 days. And I was at that point where it's like, oh, this is what I've been missing. This is what my more is, right? But then that third day, I didn't want to get up. I was in bed. I was crying. I was in the fetal position. I was like, I know that's what I want to do, but I don't know how to take the steps to do it.
Mhm.
Or I'm afraid of what's going to happen.
Oh, your fear something else.
Yeah, because I'm not familiar with that. Right. I didn't know much about the coaching industry before I got into it.
Mhm.
And I was so excited the first 2 days, like, this is it, this is it. But at that third day, I was like, oh my gosh, it's getting closer to me saying yes to myself so that I could take that next step. And that's where that fear came in. That's where I was broken. I started crying. And I was shameful of it at first. I was like, a grown man crying, right? It gets frowned upon, right? But I'm like, no, it's okay. Because I was broken. And then I'm a music kind of guy. So I put on headphones, started listening to music, starting to get little by little, getting that inspiration. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, how did I feel those first 2 days? It was awesome. I felt alive. I felt vibrant. And that came creep into my mind. I said, okay, how about if I just go there, immerse myself in that environment again, and see how that is? So then I was like, okay. So I slowly got dressed, went there, went to that environment. And of course, right, it happened. I was like, oh, yes, I'm so glad I made this step.
Mhm.
I'm so glad I came here. Because in the past, I probably wouldn't have. I would have told myself, no, don't go. That's not for you. You don't know enough. You're not good enough. Don't do it.
Excuse after excuse.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But then this time I took that step and I did it. And I said, oh. So after being there again, I was like, okay, this is it. Right? This is my step. So I signed up for the program, got coaching, went through the certification program, and kind of where I am today, right? One of the moments that helped me take that step when I went back that third day was a lady we shared in a group, and there was 5 of us, and the lady shared, I shared, and we all took turns sharing. And then right afterwards, the lady pulled me aside and said, Elliott, you are the most inspiring person to me in this room. I was like, me? Out of thousands of people, right? There's coaches, there's all these other people in the room. Me who didn't know anything and who wasn't part of this coaching industry at that moment.
Mhm.
And I was like, why? What happened? Like, how did I come across to you? She's like, your story was inspiring. You were authentic. And you just shared openly. I was like, wow, that was my like final straw, right? Saying, okay, this is it. Take that step. So
Right.
then, and then after that, right after that moment with her, and I was like, okay, this is it. This is my step, and this is what I need to go do. And that's what has led me to where I am today.
That's
That's
amazing.
amazing.
That's a wonderful story. Yeah, that, I can see why she would say that you were the most inspiring person in the room. Like your story right there just really touched me. And even that first part of your story, when you were talking about how you led up to the conference, the live event, I was like, man, is he like telling our story?
I was just picturing everything he was saying. Like, yeah, I can see him there. Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
can see him in the fetal position. I see it. Oh, here comes that breakthrough. It's like
I was
had
like, oh my
music in my
gosh.
ear and everything. Like, doom, doom, the build
Yeah,
up.
if we had music right playing in the background right there, when my story was coming up, music would have like came played with it, right?
Yeah,
So,
Right.
exactly.
That's incredible. So I love your story of how you came into coaching, but what led you to high performance coaching? Like, how did you develop that?
the live event that I was at was run by um, my mentor who coached me or who gave me my certification, right? Who coached me through my coaching program. It wasn't like I was like I sought that out. No, it was like I was there. That was what
Hmm.
was there at that moment. And I've been it's through the High Performance Institute.
Mhm.
Have you heard of that or?
I haven't.
Okay, so High Performance Institute, which is run by Brendan Bouchard, and he was the one running the live event, and I've been following him for a little bit. And then I was just there. It just happened to be that was that program, and I was like, okay, this is the jump that I'm making, right? And I'm so glad that I did make that investment in myself. It's the best investment I've ever made in myself. It's scary, right? At
Yes.
first, I was like, oh my
Yes.
gosh, am I really doing this? Am I really investing all of this money into what I want to do? How I'm gonna grow as a person?
Hmm.
And it's been such a game changer for me because here I am, more present in my life, saying yes to me
Hmm.
more often. I'm a recovering people pleaser. So that's in a story in itself, right?
Yeah.
But going back to that present piece, I'm more present in my wife. Right? My relationships are growing. They're healthy because now I don't have to try to multitask or do other things to
Hmm.
please other people. I'm putting myself first, my family first,
Hmm.
and then whatever else happens, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
where are my priorities? I got to line them up. Are they aligned with my values, right? Even my choices that I make,
Hmm.
are they aligned with my values? If they're not, I have to learn how to say no.
Yeah. And isn't it weird and funny how much easier it gets as you go on to like make these crazy, wild decisions that, or at least they feel crazy and wild in the beginning. And then, being able to say yes to yourself more. Like when we first started, it was terrifying to jump into business, and like, we had no idea what we were doing, and we were terrified to take any risk. And, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And like this past year, it went from being absolutely terrified to, let's just do it and see how it turns out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't even think twice. It's like,
Yeah.
like, we're thinking about doing this. Yeah, we need to do this, put this together, and 2 hours later, you got it all done. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
We just done.
So a big example of this is, right, so with everything going on, and I just don't feel like the school system is quite up to par with where our expectations are for our kids. So we've decided to take them out of the public school system and unschool them. So with this process, we kind of thought about it for a while, going back and forth, but we hadn't actually discussed it. We kind of thought about it individually. So then I came home one night and I was like, I really want to do this. And Yuri was like, okay. And this was on the 29th of December.
Sounds about right.
And I was like, I really want to do this. And Yuri's like, yeah, let's figure out how we need to do it.
Yeah, that surprised her. I guess she thought I was going to be like, well, no,
no,
I don't know.
Yeah, we can't do that.
I was like, I've thought about it. So yeah, I'm cool with it. Yeah. I'm for it.
So the next morning I texted my friend and I was like, what would you think if I told you that we were planning to pull YJ out of school and unschool him? And she was like, it wouldn't surprise me. And I was like, okay. This was at 9:00 that morning. So then I fill out all the paperwork online and get everything taken care of. And at 3:00 I text her back and I was like, well, it's official. We just pulled him out of school. And before, like, that would have been probably a month or two long process, and we would have talked ourselves out of it. You know what I mean? But it was like, no, just bam, bam, bam. This is what we want. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it.
Yeah, I love it. And what does that show, right? You two are action takers.
Yeah.
Right. The thing is, we as people, we already know enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's not what we know, but it's who we are with what we know. Right.
Exactly.
Are you one who's I already know what I need to do, but are you going to take action? Or are you going to sit on it? And like you said, right, it might take us a month. Are we going to dwell on it? I just bring up like Jeff Bezos. He only needs 60% of what he needs to know for whatever project he's working on, and then take an action. Like, let's go. I don't need to know 90%. I don't need to know 95. 60 is good. Let's go. Let's move on it. Right? Taking action.
Figure it out on the way.
Yes.
And just like anything else, like, it can be done in phases, right? So you do it, you put it out there. It may not be your best, but then you revise it and you revise it and you keep getting better. Like, don't wait until you're at that 100% mark, because you're never going to be at the 100% mark.
Yeah. Right. Are you taking a proactive approach or a reactive approach?
Exactly.
Right? Taking a proactive is like, hey, I'm just going to do this and take action. And then I'm not going to, whatever that doesn't work, I won't do that again.
Right.
But I'll just change it up and fix it or correct it or improve on it. But just taking action. I love it.
Yeah, people are fearful of action, or like I like to call it, messy action. They're scared. They doubt themselves. It's a lot of fear where they're second guessing them, and then maybe that imposter syndrome sets in. You're like, well, no, who am I to do this?
Yeah.
I just started, or is everybody gonna believe me? Am I professional or whatnot? It's all inside your head.
Yeah. And then you self-sabotage, because that's like our defense mechanism. Because if we go ahead and self-sabotage, then we don't have to, fear that something else is going to happen. Right. So we just do it to ourselves.
Yes. Right. I've worked with a few other coaches, and they're new. So they're like, who's going to want to hire me? I'm new at this. I'm not sure. I was like, okay, how long have you been in existence on Earth? Like 30 some years. Okay. So in those 30 years, do you think you've built up enough experience to say, hey, I can help people. Hey, I can serve people. oh yeah, I didn't look at it like that. I was just looking at like, how many years have I been coaching?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, coaching is you build upon the, yes, coaching, you whatever program you go through, certification program, it gives you like a baseline, a foundation to start with. But you still call upon your experiences to help guide your customer, to help
Right.
guide your client. Right. So, and then when they see that, they're like, oh, wow, I do have 30 some years of experience that I can bring into this conversation.
Exactly.
Perfect. Right. That's it.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that, the world has kind of dug into us, especially the corporate world, right? Has dug into us like you have to have this many years of professional experience where you're doing X, Y, Z and meet these requirements. And that's been dug into us so deeply, like we doubt ourselves and what we actually have learned through our experiences.
Yes. Yes. And just hitting on that point a little bit, it's we make things more complex than we need to.
Yes.
Right. As the more I learn about this and grow into this, it's keeping it simple so that you can think about the next step and not have to worry about 10 steps from now or
Right.
2 years from now. It's like, okay, let's break it down and make it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This time of the year, New Year's resolutions, example. People's like, oh, March 1st, I want to lose 30 pounds. And they're so excited.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, oh, they're gung-ho about it. And then that first week, they're all into it. And then the second week starts creeping in and soreness creeps in.
Yep.
And waking up early. And they're like, I've only lost 1 pound this first week. How can I maintain this so that by March 1st, I can lose 30? And then they lose that interest and lose that focus. And then they make it more complex than it needs to be.
Right, exactly.
Like break it down simple. Sure, you only lost 1 pound, but think about you haven't done anything for the past few months. You're starting from scratch, right? Let's break it down and make it easy first. 3 days this week, 4 days next week, 5 the following, so that we could build that momentum and build up those habits again. Because we're all creatures of habits.
Exactly.
Build up those habits again so that we're not looking at that. Yes, that's our big picture goal. March 30 or March 1st, 30 pounds. But what is our next best step for us? Right? And just taking that action. What is the next step? What is the next step? And then building upon that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the way we work with our clients too, is to introduce things little by little, right? And another thing is for their clients that we work with is it's so scary to take things away from them, right? Because you're taking away what they love. So instead, we add things into their life and their diet, which in return is going to cause them to eat less of the processed food, less of the junk food. But instead of taking things away from them, making them feel deprived, which is that mindset, you're adding value to them.
Yeah, I love that, right? This is kind of like stacking them upon each other or attaching it to something else you're doing already.
Exactly.
Right. So just finding that balance of, okay, let's not say we're going to take that away. How can we add something to it so that we can stack it on top of another habit that you're already doing or something else that you're already doing so that you can get that moving.
Right. And that's amazing. So, Elliott, can you tell us like some of the types of clients that you work with? So I know that you said you kind of do a little bit of everything, right? So you've done CEOs, you've worked with
group settings, individuals.
Yeah, it's like one-on-one is a little different. It's private. It's a one-to-one discussion. Group is more. I love groups because the magic and the power that happens with that group, where the group members start sharing with each other. Oh, I tried this week, or I tried that week, and I tried this last time, and I was like, oh. At first, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing what I need to be doing. But it's like, no, I'm here to help guide. Right. Like whatever happens in that group happens in that group. And that's the power and the magic of a group. And some people love it and some are all for it. And then some like, no, I want that one-on-one connection. I want that personal connection.
Yeah, we definitely, like you, we love the group setting. You get everybody chiming in, and it's like you said, you can feel like that everybody starts vibing. That energy is just powerful with all this connection, and everybody's pretty much helping one another. It just runs smoothly.
Yeah, and sometimes people they keep things in, right? Because they think, oh, this is just
Yeah.
me. This is just a me problem. So I'm not going to bring it up.
Yeah.
And then somebody else chimes in and says that they're having the same problem. And they're like, oh, wow. So I'm not the only one, you know?
Yeah.
And like it hits them, and then there's more of an open discussion.
It's like those walls get chiseled down and
Yeah.
stuff, and they're like, okay, this is a safe atmosphere.
I was like, oh, I'm not alone in this.
Right.
I'm not alone in my journey, right? It's like, I'm not the only one struggling with this.
Exactly.
But then it's like, oh, he is too, she is too. It's like, okay. And then they start to open up and start sharing from their perspective. Because everybody's story needs to be heard. Everybody has a great story.
Yes.
Everybody has their own perspective, right? There's 7.8, 7.9 billion people in this world, but there's only one of you, one of me, one of whoever.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a different experience. So their experience when they bring it in. And also within that group, it's like, oh, I'm afraid to ask this question. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's the right question. And then the next person asks that same question you want to ask. They're like, oh, yes, thank you for asking that, right? So that happens in the group as well. Yeah.
And then they form that bond too,
yes.
you know, especially if it's a longer term program. Mm-hmm. So they form that bond, and then they just feel more open, and it kind of creates that little tribe for them.
Yes. And then I also have a passion for working with like teenagers to young adults, because they're missing out on like communication type skills, mm-hmm. Self-advocacy skills, leadership type skills. And we're entrusting them to go into this next phase of their life, but they're not equipped mm-hmm. with the necessary tools that they would need.
Right.
Because I've experienced myself where I've had parents of college age students would come to me and say, hey, my son is not getting this or that. And I'd be like, huh? Your son is 19 and he can't speak for himself and he has to get his parent involved here? Because it shouldn't have gotten to that point yet, right? It's not that point yet where we involve parents, right? And you're 19, you can speak up for yourself, you can express what you're feeling. And when I teach self-advocacy part, it's about speaking up for yourself, not to start a debate, mm-hmm. but to share your perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Say, hey, this is what I'm feeling, and this is what I see. And then open that dialogue up. Not saying, oh my gosh, this is how it should be. Mm-hmm. I see from this point of view only. No, because then you're just starting a conversation, you're just starting a debate, right? So it's about advocating for yourself and speaking up for yourself, and open that dialogue and see where it goes.
Yeah.
In this day and age, there's a lot of that going on in the world, where people pretty much are just maybe talking to get their point across, but not actually listening to what the other person is saying. They're just wanting to, like you said, debate, get their point across. Like, it's this way or it's no other way. Whatever mm-hmm. you're saying is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's just this way or the highway.
Right. And we just hear someone and listen long enough to be able to respond, not to actually understand their point of view.
Yes. And the people that are struggling with that or having a challenge with that, I would challenge them and say, next time you go and have dinner with someone, just ask questions mm-hmm. and be curious about that other person, and see how amazing that is, just to listen in on it and not have to always respond to everything, mm-hmm. right? Just say, hey, you want to go, Yuri, let's go to dinner tonight. And I'm just sitting there. I'm just, Yuri, how's this going? How's that going? And here I'm just listening to you, right? And one, I'm letting you be heard. And two, I'm letting you be seen.
Yeah.
And how amazing are you going to feel about that? It's like, oh, wow, I went to dinner with Elliott tonight and we had a conversation. I don't even know what he did, but he listened to me the whole time.
Yeah.
Right? It's amazing how much, if we do something like that, something small like that or simple like that, mm-hmm. can lead to a bigger outcome.
It can be difficult. And I speak from experience, right? Because I came from a very conservative family background. So it can be very difficult when you're trying to be more open-minded and actually do that, to ask questions and not respond or think negatively. So that, like, whenever I first started doing that and I was trying to, learn more and just be more open-minded, and I would ask someone a question and they would give me a response, and it was something that I may not agree with. The first thought in my head is, that's not right. But I'm like, no, just stop and listen.
Yeah.
And like, you have to consciously tell yourself, don't respond, just listen. Don't respond, just listen. And then the more you do it, the easier it gets. But in the beginning, especially if you've been taught like this is the only way, it can be very difficult to just sit there and hear someone else.
Yeah, that's great self-awareness on your part, right? Just letting go of that judgment piece and not having any judgment whatsoever in their response. And I was at that point too, right? I was like, oh, why is she saying that? Oh, why is he saying that? And I was like, why? I don't know their story.
Right.
I don't know much about them. Here I am. I'm trying to figure out or learn more about them. This is where that curiosity piece comes in. I'm just going to listen and not have judgment piece. And if you're feeling that, get like kind of like that icky or yucky feeling like, oh, I really don't agree with this, then shift the conversation, right? Ask a different question so that the conversation goes a different route. The other person at the end doesn't know that you're just shifting the conversation somewhere else. They're not going to say, oh, can we go back to this?
Right.
No, just totally shift it and bring something else up. And then now that judgment piece of what you were talking before goes out the window and you're onto a different topic.
That's great advice right there. I love that.
Yeah, no problem. It's like, that's like I said earlier, right? We tend to make things more complex, more difficult than it needs to be. Let's just make things simple and as simple as can be. And go from there and go from that point of view or that perspective and see where that leads us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could definitely read the conversation, the way it's headed, especially if somebody's getting aggravated, maybe of the way the conversation is going, like you said, where you can continue going down that path to make it even worse. Or like you said, you could mislead it to somewhere else and de-escalate the situation.
Yeah, right. Because you're another, and you're the one receiving that information. You can help direct that conversation to somewhere else and not where it might be going. And you're like, oh, if it goes down that road, I don't know how I'm going to feel. I don't know. I might say something that I might regret. So let's not go down the road and let's just direct it somewhere else.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So what are 3 pieces of advice that you can give to our listeners today to help them improve their performance?
Well, I'm not here to give advice as a coach. That was a fine line where it's like when I first started coaching, it's like, oh, we don't give advice. I was like, what? That's what consultants do. Right? We as coaches, we just kind of help guide the conversation and lead it wherever the client wants it to go. I was like, oh, and that was hard for me at first because I was like, you already know that, because I wanted to say to her, like, you already know this. Why aren't you doing it? Right? Like, no, you can't say that. It's more like, okay, let's dig deeper. What is happening there? Or how can we go deeper here? Right? Some practical things though that I can say, hey, this is something that's worked for me. Number 1 is being intentional. Setting that intention. It's like I was going to go on with Ashley and Yuri today. Who do I want to be when I show up to talk to you too? Because we don't know each other well, right? How do I want to show up? Who do I want to be? And I was telling myself in front of the mirror. 1, I'm going to be authentic. Right. 2, share openly. 3, don't have any judgment about where the conversation goes. Right. So just setting those intentions about who you want to be, how you want to show up. Right. Number 2 for me is, this is kind of a tip or a trick that I use. Is I put up Post-it notes around the house as triggers for me on top of my computer to sit tall, posture. Right. So it triggers my mind. Oh, I've been sitting too long, looking at that Post-it note. And it reminded me to sit up, correct my posture, change my posture. Right. Putting Post-it notes on the door. So as I'm walking through a door, you're saying, be a great dad. Oh, okay. Good reminder. Right. Because there was a moment when my kids came up to me and said, Dad, you haven't told us that you love us in a while. I'm like, I was shocked. I was like, what? I thought I do that every day. But here I was, I thought I was doing it and I wasn't, because I'm hearing from the source, right? The sources are my kids.
They're gonna tell you.
Yeah.
They're definitely
right, they're
gonna tell
telling
you.
me. I'm like, oh, okay, how can I go about to remind myself? Because what I've been doing in the past hasn't been working. Put up a note, be a great dad. Walk out of my bedroom. First thing I do, tell them I love them, ask them how they're doing, check in on them, right? So that was another piece. I gave you what, tutor, right? Okay. What's another thing that? Also game changer. Planning things. Right? Putting things on my calendar. Everything on my calendar. Exercise time. This is meditation time. These are meeting times, right? How did I remember to come on this call? Because it was in my calendar, right? Reminding myself. And clients that I've worked with, it's like, I want to find time to read, but I just don't have enough time to read. I was like, okay, how did you remind yourself to come on this call? It was on my calendar. Is reading something you could put on a calendar? I never thought of that. Okay. I was like, how long do you want to read? I want to read for 2 hours. Okay. Can you find a 2 hour block time? Or do you want to split that up and say, I'm going to do an hour here, an hour there? Because she wanted to read 2 hours. She's like, okay, I'll find time. And then the next week she comes like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that I could do something like that. Something that simple. I'm able to get 2 hours of reading for me, for my time, right? So she found that time. So it's like, it can be that simple if we put it into our schedule and block that time off.
Definitely.
And then people are like, but I don't want to be so rigid or have block time for everything. I want to have free time or hobby time or flexible time. Block in that time.
Right.
Say, hey, this time is flexible time. Meaning you can do whatever, but now you're building it in your day, so you're not letting things happen by chance.
Yes.
Letting things happen by randomness. Right?
Yes,
so being
exactly.
intentional about that piece, yeah.
Yeah, I always block off my lunch at work, because if I don't, I know that meetings are going to get booked on top of that, and you need that time away,
Yes. Yes.
So yeah.
That me time is super important.
It is.
Super important for everyone.
Yes.
Everyone.
Like we always tell our clients, you have to plan, because if you don't plan, then you pretty much plan to fail.
Correct.
Like you said, if you don't, like, we run into some people who are used to going to the gym, or maybe they don't really know what their workout routine is going to be like in the gym. And we ask them, have you planned it? Maybe Monday, I'm going to do this when I get to the gym. I'm going to do that. It's like that way you've got everything planned out, and you're not spending 3 or 4 hours at the gym where you're going in there, you're getting 30 minutes of cardio, you're doing whatever weight training for 45 minutes, and you're home. You got everything planned out.
Yeah, right. Because it can be intimidating if you walk into a fitness center and you'd be like, oh my gosh, I've never seen that machine before. What is that machine? What is that? I don't know how to do this. But if you go in with that plan, that first time at least, and now, oh, I saw that machine last time. I think I want to try it. Okay, put that down.
Right.
Let's see, I'm going to try out that machine. And then now you have a plan.
Exactly. Yeah. So Elliott, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah. So you can go to Elliott Vang. That's Elliott with 2 T's. Okay. Make sure it's 2 T's. And that's elliotvang.com. Okay. You can go there. I have some freebies there. Schedule a call with me and learn more about what high performance is, right? And just figuring out, how can I get to those next level? What do I need to do to level up, right? If you feel stuck.
That's awesome. And I'll definitely put that in the show notes below too, so everyone can find you.
Awesome.
Now we have some rapid fire questions for you real quick, because we are a fitness and nutrition company, so we kind of had to throw some of that in here.
Sure.
All right, so these are your preferences: weights or cardio?
Weights.
Awesome. Favorite fruit?
Banana.
Okay. Favorite vegetable?
Broccoli.
Oh, that's good.
People love
that's
broccoli.
That's your favorite too. Favorite comfort food?
Favorite comfort food? Oh, that was chocolate.
Chocolate. Oh, yes,
yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Milk. Yeah.
Mine's dark.
Okay.
First thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word vegan?
Oh, I guess.
Oh.
That surprised me, right? So
That's our first response with an O, but I love it.
I was waiting, like, is there a response? Then you said that's the response. So oh.
I was going to respond, but I was like, that was my first response. So I didn't want to change that up.
And finally, and then this is the biggest question, where do you get your strength from?
From within me, right? I used to think about it was like outside factors or physical strength, right? I was like, oh, I need to get stronger. But it's that internal strength, right? Inside of me. How do I get that out? How do I build upon that? And I find it within me.
That's awesome. I love that so much.
Yeah, because most people don't realize that we pretty much have the strength to do whatever it is that we need to do. Like if we're down or stressed or we have whatever problem, it's like we don't look within ourselves to fix it. We keep doing the same thing that's got us in the same situation without thinking, let me try something else. Let me see if this works out. See how this does. And if it doesn't work, you keep changing it until eventually, I think I'm on the right path now. I'm feeling better, or I'm losing weight. My attitude's better, or I'm getting more work done.
Yeah. And no one can fix you the way you can, right? Because like even we doubt ourselves a lot, but we know when something's off. We have that intuition and we know what we need to do. We just need to stop doubting and just do it.
Yeah. Or if you can't figure it out, express it, right?
Yes.
Like ask for help.
Yeah.
You have a network around you already. There's people built around you that will help you out.
Yes.
Will help you find that. And then now going back to the piece of, oh, I did know this, but I just needed somebody else to kind of push me a little bit or nudge me in that way. Yeah.
That validation.
Correct.
Yeah.
But especially like you were saying, where you were at the event and you were down on yourself and where you started to cry and stuff like that, just being that vulnerable, because being men, it's looked as weak if we cry or something like that. Or because I remember growing up crying and stuff, and my mom and dad, boy, stop that crying. You be a man, don't cry. But it's no cry. If you're sad, if you're feeling emotional, let that out. Let that go. Express that feeling.
Yeah.
Correct. It's touching me. That's why I'm getting emotional here. I can't fake this, right? I'm not purposely trying to generate tears out of my eyes. It's just happening because I'm getting emotional about it, and it's touching me in that certain way.
Yes, exactly. Elliott, we have absolutely loved having you on tonight.
Oh, it's been so much fun.
Amazing. Your energy is just so incredible.
Especially coming from me. I'm an introvert.
You pulled him out of his shell.
I can feel his vibe. You feel that energy. You're like, okay, yeah. Because certain people, I'm like, do I really want to talk to this person? But you was like, I know him. I know him for 20 years. We're comfortable. I just feel that energy.
Oh, I love that, Yuri. I love that. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. And I was I toned that down some, right? I was like, oh my gosh, I have too much energy. One story, right?
Yeah.
Coming from being a teacher, I used to create secret handshakes with students. And students would see me down the hallway and come running down, and be like, there he is. Like, they'll come running to me. And I would tell them, like, shh, calm down. Like, let's keep it down. Because I didn't want to build up this competition of me versus another teacher. Right. And I was like, and then I started thinking to myself, that's who they are. Right. That's who I am. Should I tell them to tone themselves down? Then they're not being their real self. They're not being their truest self. Right. And then the following, I was like, okay, whatever. Right. Secret handshake, high fives, fist bumps, all of that. I was like, yeah, let's jump it. Because to bring that excitement for students to learn in that school environment. So, I just want to leave off that story when you brought that up, Yuri.
No, I love that. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. We have had an amazing time, and I can't wait for our listeners to go on and find out more about you.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Definitely beneficial.
Oh, and I just want to say, yes, we all should get a coach. We all should have a coach to
Yes.
help us, guide us, walk us through whatever we're dealing with. Because people at the highest levels, athletes, they all have coaches.
Yes.
Singers, they all have voice coaches,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're like, we put them on this pedestal, like, oh, they don't need a coach, but yes, they do have a coach,
Yes, exactly.
so they can perform at that level,
Yes.
right?
That high performance. The high
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
Yes. And the only difference between you and your coach is that they've already been through those steps that you're going through, right? So they're helping guide you there.
Yes.
And then you as a coach still need a coach because you know what? Your coach is a few steps ahead of you.
Yeah.
So we just always need someone that's just a few steps ahead of us to
Yes.
help keep building us up.
Yeah, and that's basically what it is, right? You
Yeah.
don't have to go and search for somebody who's a mile ahead of you.
Exactly.
Hey, just a few steps ahead of you. That's
Yeah.
all it takes. And then they're going to pull you up, and you go find another coach that's a few steps ahead of you, and then they'll pull you up, and you just keep going on that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just loved having Elliott on here. It was such an inspiration to get on, to have him come on and talk about how you can just overcome and how he overcame his fear with his conference and being able to go through and then lead that into a successful coaching career. Because we've all felt that way. It's just many times we're afraid to express to other people that that's how we're feeling.
Yes, and hearing how he decided to invest in himself and putting his family first again instead of just working ton of hours, just trying to
Mhm.
provide, just actually investing in himself and helping people just make better choices with their life and though so they can reach the next level in their careers or life, whatever their journey has in store for them.